everyone, welcome back. Icon here. Thanks for checking out another episode of Esports Analysis. Today we're hopping back on board with ENVOY. Everybody seems to love watching ENVOY's POV, so I'm going to give everybody what they want to see. Now, sometimes I like to watch Formal just because he does a little bit of a better job of controlling spawns, and that's his role, right, is locking down lanes, controlling spawns, and stuff like that. But it's really fun to be on board with ENVOY because he's always in the hill, like right here. You see him in the hill, capturing the hill, getting two pieces, stuff like that. So that's who we are on board with today, as we're watching Chicago, and they are going to battle against the Dallas Empire. This is from the Scrim. I think it was 2 days ago, so I uploaded just one a couple days ago. Everybody really liked that footage. They were asking for more, so I went back and I recorded another one. So this is the second game of that Scrim. So we are on St Petrograd. As you can see, the big push right here is going down on the right-hand side of the map. So one thing that I will show you real quick is, I'll just pause this. A lot of people have been asking me to just pause the video and explain what I'm seeing so that you can understand a little bit better. But essentially, Chicago got this back spawn. This is the primary spawn. This is the one that you want to have as it rotates to from the first hardpoint back to the second hardpoint. For those that are new to my channel, I am drawing on the map in the top right-hand corner of your screen. So essentially what ENVOY was just doing is he went blue courtyard, and he was trying to get everything that was coming from L and also from this outside lane over here by ambulance. Now, if you are Dallas, you got the bad spawn. So what Dallas is trying to do is they sent a couple resources in towards the first hardpoint to try to get points there, but they also sent a lot of people towards mid-map and also towards outside L. So over here, you just saw two people rushing on that outside lane where ENVOY just was. And essentially, since they won that gun battle, what they're trying to do is they're just trying to push out this back flank. And I know that I have a lot of stuff up on the screen right now. So essentially, they're just trying to get that outside lane. They're trying to get into P2, and then if they can, if they're coming from this direction, they do want to try to push out to back bar. Now, what you'll see most teams do is that off of this spawn right here, they'll either go through P5 or they'll go mid-map. And essentially, as soon as, so for example, if they go towards P5, they can go upstairs to top blue. And if you can kill the person that's looking over top of P4, then all of a sudden you can push back through to back bar spawn. And now all of a sudden, as this rotates back to P2, you are the team that has spawns. So what you're trying to do, or what you're seeing on screen at the moment, is that Dallas is pushing through that middle map lane, and they're really trying to push up and get this spawn right here where ENVOY just came up at. Now, I will say that Chicago is doing a really nice job of holding this down. This is one of the ones where it's hard to get, but once you are back there, as long as you have smokes, it's pretty easy to get across into P2. And then once you're in there, it's pretty easy to hold down too, if we're being honest, because there's only two ways that the enemy team can come from. So again, right now, Dallas is spawning outside of L over here by Water's Edge. At that same time, Chicago is spawning back towards back P4. And then essentially, since Chicago has control of P2, they just have to watch this middle lane and they have to watch this back flank. And that's it. If they lock down those two advances, then all of a sudden they're going to have all of that time. They're going to have hill control. And that's exactly what you're seeing in the bottom left-hand corner when you're looking at the score. So as of right now, it's 54-24. Dallas is in the current hard point, but if you're Chicago, that's good because you gave up the last 10 seconds there to ensure that you have spawns for P3. Now, I don't necessarily know which way I'd recommend this because it can be beneficial both ways, right? Because if you have this back spawn, so let me show you just real quick. Let me talk to you about the two strategies here. So they're coming from P3, so they're coming back from, or they're coming from P2, they're going to P3. What you're going to notice is that for P2, you want to be on the right side of the map. For P4, you want to be on the right side of the map. For P5 and P1, you want to be on the right side of the map. So there's two ways that you could look at this. If you're the team that's just leaving P2, then essentially what you're trying to do is push through mid-map, go up towards top hazmat, and if you can get down and contest this time, then that's great. So you're just trying to contest in this scenario if you're Chicago. But you're just trying to contest if you're Dallas. If you're Chicago, then you're trying to push out into those chokes a little bit. So essentially what you're seeing is that if you're the team that rotates early, such as Chicago did right here, then they're going to get inside P3. They're going to push out into these chokes over towards mid-map a little bit, and they're going to try to win these gun battles that are happening right in the middle of the map. Whereas if you're Dallas, you're just trying to hold that back spawn. You're trying to hold this spawn over here so that as it rotates to P4 and P5 and eventually to P1 and back to P2, you have spawns on the right side of the map for essentially the entire last set of rotations. So Dallas, what they're trying to do right now is they're trying to contest, yes, but they're also trying to hold down that spawn for the next set of hills.
I got one deep left.
Now, one thing that I'll say is that there's a little bit more that plays into this too. So if you are Dallas, all of a sudden you're down by quite a bit, right? So that was a nice trade in hill right there. Looked like, was it Hugh? Looks like Hugh got in and killed Formal, and then he was traded out. But essentially, if you're Dallas, you're getting a little bit behind the 8 ball. So if you lose like one of these 3 hills, that's usually not too bad, but if you lose all of those first 3 hills, then you have a really large mountain to climb back. So you'll notice in that first hill, they didn't get the majority of that time because they were trying to push out spawns for P2. When it got back to P2, they were spawning over towards Water's Edge, so they didn't have that either. And now that it rotated over to P3, they didn't get the majority of this time. They hardly got any of this time. They were able to contest for 3 or 4 seconds, but that's all that they were able to do. So if you're Dallas, you have to control at least 40 or 50 seconds of this P4 as it rotates back. So again, drawing on the minimap top right-hand corner of your screen, there they are in P4. So essentially what they want to do is they want to get pushed up into blue courtyard if you're Dallas. If you get pushed out into blue courtyard, then essentially as Chicago rotates from mid-map, you can pick up these kills before they can get into P4. If you can get those kills before they get in, then all of a sudden that just stacks the amount of team gun battles that the enemy has to win in order to get into the current hill. So they are pushed out over there. They're also pushing out over towards P1. So essentially you're really just trying to lock down these flank routes. So like Hugh right there, he did a really nice job of shutting down any advancement that ENVOY had there. And you can see with 10 seconds left, this is exactly what we were talking about. We were saying that since they lost the majority of the points, since Dallas lost the majority of the points on the first 3 hills, they really did have to max out P4, and that's exactly what they did. Now, if I'm Chicago, this is, again, I want to go ahead and I want to get points inside the hill, but I want to push out that backside as well. Because as it rotates to P1 and P2, we want to be on the right side of the map. So what you're going to be seeing, if you look at the minimap in the top left-hand corner, you can see that there are people in the hill, so there are blue arrows in the hill, and they are getting the majority of this time, but you're going to look to see those blue arrows push out into the other side of the map pretty soon. So there are 4 people in the hill right now, but pretty soon you want to see those guys push forward. And again, that's another thing with this map that makes it just a little bit different from all the other ones. These are mammoth. These are just monster kills in here from ENVOY. All of these, so think about it. All of the points that he's stacking right here are solely because of the fact that ENVOY was able to clutch up on 3 different kills there. If he doesn't get Crim 6 a couple of those times, then the rest of that time is at least contested, right? It's at least plus minus 0 there. So that's just what ENVOY brings to the table. He's so talented. He's so skilled. He has the ability to really lock down hard points like he just did right there. And then again, coming out, getting a 2-piece there, pushing into the hill. He's just so talented. He's such a good player. I know that we've been talking about him a lot in the comments below in some of my past videos, but he really does a phenomenal job. I think he's a big key to the success of the Chicago Huntsmen. So if we're just resetting real quick, you can see that Dallas is having a really rough time getting back into P1 on this second set of rotations. So right now, they're down by 80 points. That's a nice job of contesting there. So that 18, those last 17 points or so, they're going to be contested. It does look like Chicago was able to overtake that. But if you're Dallas at this point in time, you absolutely have to hold down this next P2 location, so you can't let them overtake your spawns. Then you have to somehow find a way to rotate out early and also control P3, because I think if you give up P2 or P3, then you're probably going to end up losing the game. So this is 2 back-to-back hills that they have to do a really nice job of controlling. But with that said, we've talked a lot about the strategy, so I don't want to talk too much more about what we're seeing on screen. I do want you guys to be able to listen in to the team communications from Chicago. So with that, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to turn up the volume. Let's listen into their communications, and we can find out a little bit about what they're trying to do strategy-wise.
Blue dumpster and one top bar.
They spawn front. They spawn front.
I'll literally take this race. Get all this time. I don't care about how.
Yeah, I'm already hazmat, bro. So don't worry about it.
Man, another massive,
Another
that
guy
would have
there,
been a
bro.
crazy three-piece. So if you're Dallas, I think that's probably the wrong play there. You want to rotate out. You really have to get control. You could have given up those last 10 seconds to make sure you had control of P3 so that you could get 50 or 60 points there.
Right.
Now that they continue to push that back P2, now as it rotates to P3, they're not in position. They only need 25 points, and I think this is probably going to be all that she wrote.
Yo, beat him. Or blue dump. Beat him. Yeah, we spawned in the back. Here, Theo?
If you look at the minimap, it does look like Chicago is spawning on the right side of P3. So what that means is that Dallas was able to successfully push out that left side. So over there by ambulance, where Clayser just killed ENVOY from right there, they were able to push out that left side, and now you can see that ENVOY, as he comes up from that death, he is now spawning out. So they're just going to give up this last 15 seconds. If you can capitalize on this last 12, then you're going to end up winning this game. So they're just going to set up here in P4 and try to win the game as it rotates back over here.
You guys want to flood at time? Flood at time. Front is open. Okay. Do the setup, Alec. Do the setup.
You just heard them say, do the setup, Alec. So essentially what they're doing is Alec was watching the front door and ENVOY was watching his back. Let me show that just one last time. I know that this map is almost over, but if you're watching the mini map, look at P4. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to draw just one last time. If we're looking at P4 over here, so you know what? I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to zoom this in just so we can get a better look at P4. If we're looking at P4, essentially what you just saw is ENVOY was set up here, and Alec, or Arcides, was set up here. So ENVOY is just watching Alec's back. He's watching this back door, and anybody from Dallas who might be coming in and pushing through this back flank. Then essentially what Arcides was doing is Arcides was watching ENVOY's front. So Arcides was watching here, and he was watching anybody that might be coming in through this front lane. So when they said do the setup, that's exactly what they're talking about. Essentially, they're just each watching each other's backs, because what that does is, think about it. If you're from Dallas and you come in the front door, where are you going to be looking, right? You're going to be looking straight ahead. You're going to be looking, this is going to be your first cone of view right here, is you're going to be looking straight ahead. So if, for example, if we're watching this way, so if ENVOY was watching the front door and nobody had eyes on Alec's back, they could easily walk in that front door and they could kill Alec from behind, right? Before ENVOY could get that kill. So the ability to watch each other's backs there is what they were doing, and that's how they were trying to secure the last few seconds there. So they were able to trade out those kills, and now this game comes to an end. So that's just the little things that come to play inside games like this is, you know, where are you set up inside the hill? Where are you watching the chokes? Where are you set up all throughout the map? And I thought that was a really nice thing to catch up on, just so you can see how they execute certain things like that. So with that, as we go ahead and look at the scoreboard here, ENVOY dropped 26. Looks like Crim6 dropped 24. But again, look underneath. Shotzi only had 14. Illy only had 18. So, man, Shotzi really needs to pick it up if they want to be successful at their next LAN event. So, with that, guys, thank you so much for tuning into another episode of Esports Analysis. I appreciate all the support, all the views, all the likes, all the comments. Thank you guys so much for all that you've been doing recently. I truly do appreciate it. If you're new, make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you have anything you want to say, go ahead and leave a comment down below. I love those interactions and responding to you guys. Don't leave without hitting that like button before you head on your way. And with that, I will catch you in tomorrow's episode. We'll see you.